Welcome to the Beehive, everybody. Today we talk about one of the biggest Speedway riders in the modern era and the revival of Speedway. He was a big dude and he was fast. We're going to talk about him today. His name is Big Mike Konle. Mike was born in 1945 and in the Los Angeles area. He just loved riding motorcycles. He was an avid motorcycle guy. Anywhere with two wheels, Mike Konle was there. Mike's first big win was in 1963 when he was 18 years old. He won the Greenhorn Enduro Challenge. It was a big race. He wasn't even expected to compete in that thing, and he won it. It was the 17th annual running of the Greenhorn Enduro Challenge, and he rode for the Shamrocks Motorcycle Club in Sunland. It was just a bunch of hardcore motorcycle dudes racing that race, and there was no money involved. It was just the prestige of winning it. And guess what? Steve McQueen was actually in that race also. It was a grueling 2 days endurance race, and actually very few people have finished that race. Like I mentioned, the Hollywood mogul Steve McQueen was in that race, and all these photographers and movie people came out to shoot that race. And actually, Steve McQueen was doing pretty well, but his bike broke down towards the end of the 2-day competition. Young Mike Konle, only 18 years old, went on to stun everybody and win that motorcycle event. Mike went on to race flat track and TT and did really well. And 5 years later, after that particular Greenhorn Enduro race, he tried a new sport called Speedway. Just after Whiteman opened in June 22nd, 1968, Mike had his first race. It was on an old JP, probably one of Fairchild's old JPs, and he got 4th place in the C Main at the Whiteman Stadium. And the following week at the Whiteman Stadium, Mike actually did better. He was in the B Main and he got 4th place in the B Main. Mike kept working hard and developing, advancing in his skills, and a couple months later he got 4th place in the A Main now. Just 3 weeks later in September, Mike went ahead and was in the A Main again and got 2nd place behind Dwayne Keeter. Mike steadily did well. He progressed throughout the end of the season and into the next season. The next season was at the Costa Mesa Fairgrounds, the summer of '69, the beginning, the rival of Costa Mesa Speedway. Lynn Caston in 1970 partnered up with Mike Konle. They actually started this company called Redline, and it was a very famous frame company. And they went ahead and did that as Mike was continued to progress as a Speedway rider. Redline produced chromoly frames and swing arms for motorcycles for the Speedway bikes. And they hired like 6 people to run that business. It turned out really well. From 1970 to 1972, Mike Bass actually rode a redline frame, and he did really well. He actually won 1971 United States Speedway champion, possibly on that redline. Redline ventured off, and they were making frames for Class C flat track bikes, and they ventured off into the BMX. Bill Cody once said that actually the redline frames were really great. They would actually get the redline frames, and then the back section they would cut it and weld it, and it would actually move that 22-inch tire up closer to the front. I didn't know this, but Bill Cody sponsored Mike Konle with a really fast Jawa. It was dependable, like I said, fast, and it was just a good bike. Bill Cody supplied Mike Konle with his bikes. 1971 was a really big chance for Mike Konle. He was in the national championship fighting for his first United States Speedway championship. At the end of the night, there was 2 riders who actually were tied in points to win that national championship. It was 2 riders riding for their first United States Speedway championship. They were tied in points, and they had to have a runoff. It was their first attempt to win a national championship. It was Big Mike Konle was in that particular runoff with Michael Bass. It was both of their first times racing for the United States Championship, and sad to say for Mike Konle, Michael Bass won that particular runoff, and that was his first of 7 United States Speedway Championships in the 70s. For Big Mike Konle, winning that United States Championship would have been huge for his career, but he came up just a little short. Losing that 71 United States Speedway Championship didn't deter Big Mike Konle. He kept racing Speedway, doing well for a few more seasons. "1972 was a pretty cool year for Mike Konle. He was invited to race on the touring team for the United States, which included Mike Bass, Steve Bass, Wild Bill Cody, Sonny Nutter, and Dwayne Keeter. In 1973, Lynn Caston, the partner of Mike Konle and Redline Frames, he went ahead and wanted to make his child a frame for his BMX bicycle for Christmas, and that began the BMX bicycle Redline Frames. About that same time, I was just a little guy, and I'd go to the Speedway races. And after the races, I would go up to Costa Mesa and Irwindale, and I would see Big Mike Konle, number 89, in the pit, sitting in that chair. And I'd go up to him with a paper and a pen, and I'd say, "Could you please sign my autograph, Mr. Konle?" And he'd say, "Sure." And he'd sign his autograph, and he was gracious, and he was kind. In 1974, Redline got really big with frames and forks for the BMX bicycles. They went really big time. Just 4 years later, in 1978, Lynn Caston buys out Mike Konle. They went ahead and produced over 10,000 frames for the BMX bicycles. They were huge, and Big Mike Konle got bought out, and he was with Redline no more. Justice Brother went ahead and listed Mike Konle in their list of champions. After Speedway, Mike Konle got into airplane flying. He actually had a Cessna 8-seater with 2 engines, and he parked it over at the Whiteman Stadium area in Pacoima, California. There's an airstrip right there. 1981, after he left Redline, he started his own company called Champion Crane Rentals. And that was in Pacoima, California, where he parked his airplane. And it became a huge rental business. Everything Mike Konle touched in business turned to gold. In 2005, Mike Konle, along with Boogaloo Bobby Schwartz, they were inducted into the Trailblazers Hall of Fame. Mike Konle was a very special guest of the Trailblazers, and for years he was invited back for their special events. One of the true legends of Speedway and of motorsports is number 89, Big Mike Konle. As an 18-year-old kid, the youngest person ever to win that two-day Greenhorn Enduro race, to that Speedway innovator doing those red line frames for the Speedway motorcycles, to becoming almost a national champion and a champion in many people's hearts. He was just a Speedway legend. Big Mike Konle, we salute you. Thank you so much for all the memories and the 76 years of life that you've given us. We really appreciate all you've done for the sport of Speedway, and thank you so much. Please ride safe, stay on two wheels, no crashes, and thank you so much for joining the Mike Konle blog. It was fun. We really like this guy. He's cool. So thank you so much for joining us, and please like, share, subscribe to the Bumblebee channel, and always ring that notification bell so you can get next show.